the wizard Merlin spent his entire life using the Wizard King's staff to forge a holy sword to maintain balance in the world. He gave the holy sword to the Lady of the Lake for safekeeping and cast a spell. Only the true king could pull the sword from the stone. The tyrant feared the chosen one would threaten his rule, so he ordered the arrest of all young men of age for sword-pulling tests. If anyone pulled out the sword, they'd be captured immediately. Arthur didn't want to waste time and stepped forward from the crowd. At the general's signal, he walked up the stone steps. A familiar feeling suddenly flooded Arthur's heart. He tried gripping the sword hilt, and actually got a response from the sword. Before Arthur could process what happened, the general urged him to hurry up and not waste time. Arthur reached out with both hands and gripped the hilt. A powerful force burst forth. As Arthur drew the Sword of Kings, the earth began to shake. The tyrant noticed this strange phenomenon. Under everyone's terrified gaze, Arthur pulled the holy sword out with all his strength. The general immediately ordered Arthur's arrest, but before they could act, Arthur collapsed from not yet mastering the sword's power. When he woke, Arthur found himself imprisoned in the tyrant's dungeon. It turned out Arthur was the only bloodline of former King Uther. The tyrant hadn't expected Arthur to survive. Arthur's public sword pulling challenged the tyrant's ruling authority. To eliminate public doubts and consolidate power, the tyrant killed Arthur's adopted mother. Using everything he cared about as leverage, he gathered all the townspeople, forcing Arthur to publicly admit he was worthless, that even pulling the holy sword didn't qualify him to rule. Arthur was under their control and couldn't resist. He could only be dragged to the execution platform. At this critical moment, a witch in blue robes began chanting spells, commanding eagles to disrupt the executioner at the execution ground. The tyrant felt a terrible headache. He couldn't even speak to give orders. As the witch continued casting interfering spells, the war horses suddenly became wild. The hounds also started losing control. The rebels seized the chance to rush the platform. They untied Arthur's ropes, grabbed the Sword of Kings and fled. The witch immediately shed her disguise, jumping off the cliff with the rebels. Arthur knew there was no turning back. He gathered his courage and jumped too. The black armored troops could only stop their pursuit at the cliff. Arthur and the others walked for a long time, finally reaching the rebels' secret base. After the tyrant took power, his cruel policies never stopped. These people couldn't bear watching the people suffer and fought back, but their forces were limited. They couldn't confront the tyrant directly. Now news of Arthur pulling the sword had spread. If Arthur was willing to resist the tyrant, the people would surely follow, creating a powerful force. But Arthur had unresolved trauma and couldn't master the sword's power. Then he fell unconscious again. To resolve Arthur's inner conflict, the witch cast a spell to enter Arthur's dreams. It turned out Arthur had witnessed his father die before him. Whenever he held the holy sword, he would see those unbearable memories. He blamed himself for not being able to save his father, so he could only run away. The witch suggested sending Arthur to the Dark Lands for trials. In that dangerous environment, he could defeat his cowardly self and gain the potential to master the holy sword.